The crystalline ship pierced Earth's atmosphere like a shooting star, trailing azure flames in its wake. Inside, Zenith's bioluminescent markings pulsed weakly in the universal distress pattern, a desperate cry for help that no one in the galaxy would answer. Her people, the Luminarii, were known throughout the cosmos as healers and peacekeepers, their very biology designed to sense and soothe the emotions of others. Now, that same gift was becoming her curse. The ship's emergency protocols weren't designed for Earth's atmosphere. As Zenith plummeted toward the ground, she could feel every emotion from the sentient beings below: fear, curiosity, wonder, all hammering against her psychic barriers. The Galactic Council had quarantined Earth for good reasons, they said. Humans were unpredictable, violent, primitive. Their minds were too chaotic, their emotions too intense for species like hers. The impact came suddenly. Her ship carved through a forest canopy before embedding itself in soft earth, the reinforced crystal hull finally giving way. Pain lanced through Zenith's body. Her species wasn't built for high-gravity worlds, and Earth's pull felt like it would crush her delicate frame. As consciousness faded, she registered one final, cruel irony. In trying to escape death among the stars, she had crashed on the one planet where no civilized species would dare rescue her. Marcus Davidson had seen plenty of strange things in his 15 years as a forest ranger in the Pacific Northwest, but nothing like this. The object that streaked across his evening sky definitely wasn't a meteor. Meteors didn't change direction mid-fall, and they certainly didn't glow with intricate patterns of blue light. He radioed his position to dispatch, grabbed his emergency kit, and began hiking toward the crash site. The wreckage looked like something out of a dream. Crystalline fragments scattered across the forest floor caught moonlight and reflected it in impossible colors. At the center lay what could only be described as a cockpit, its transparent walls webbed with cracks but largely intact. Inside was— Marcus caught his breath. Inside was proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe. The being looked almost like a ghost made solid, translucent skin through which patterns of light pulsed weakly. A slender frame that seemed too delicate for Earth's gravity. 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern currently closed in unconsciousness. As Marcus approached, those eyes fluttered open, revealing iridescent pupils that contracted in fear. "Easy there," Marcus said softly, holding up his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "I'm not going to hurt you." The alien's skin flashed with patterns of deep red warning colors, Marcus guessed. He stayed where he was, speaking in the same gentle tone he used with injured wildlife. "You're hurt. I can help." The alien made a sound like wind chimes, then winced in obvious pain. Marcus noticed how its chest barely rose with each breath, how its limbs trembled under Earth's gravity. Without help, this being wouldn't survive long. He had to make a choice: follow protocol, call it in, and watch as government agencies descended to quarantine and study this visitor, or— "I have a cabin," he said, knowing the alien probably couldn't understand him, but hopping his tone conveyed his meaning. "Private, safe, let me help you." He mimicked a breathing motion, then pointed to his chest and the alien's, trying to communicate his understanding of its struggle. To his surprise, the alien's colors shifted to a soft blue. Slowly, painfully, it raised a 6-fingered hand and touched its temple. Marcus felt a gentle presence brush against his mind, like a whisper in an empty room. Danger, humans, violent. The thoughts weren't words so much as concepts, emotions, flashes of understanding. Marcus shook his head. "Not all of us, not me." He thought of his work, protecting the forest, helping injured animals, preserving life in all its forms. He pushed these memories toward that gentle presence in his mind, hoping the alien could sense his sincerity. The being's colors shifted again, this time to a pattern Marcus couldn't interpret. Then, with obvious effort, it reached toward him with one trembling hand. Marcus moved forward slowly, carefully helping the alien from the wreckage. Its body was incredibly light, as if hollow, and he could feel how every movement caused it pain. "I'm Marcus," he said as he cradled the alien carefully. "And I promise, whatever made you crash here, whatever you're running from, you're safe now." The alien's patterns pulsed once weakly, and Marcus felt another whisper in his mind. "Zenith." Then its eyes closed as unconsciousness took hold again, leaving Marcus alone in the darkening forest with an alien refugee in his arms and the weight of an impossible decision on his shoulders. He looked up at the stars, wondering what chain of events had brought this being to Earth, what horrors it must have fled to risk landing on a quarantined world. Then he began the careful journey back to his cabin, knowing that everything— his life, his world's relationship with the cosmos, perhaps even the fate of this strange, beautiful creature would depend on what he did next. Dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold as Marcus paced his cabin's living room, running his fingers through his disheveled hair. He hadn't slept. How could he? The alien Zenith lay unconscious on his couch, her translucent form wrapped in his lightest blankets. Her bioluminescent patterns had grown fainter through the night, and her breathing became more labored with each passing hour. He needed help, but who could he trust? The government would turn this into a circus. The military would see a threat. Finally, he pulled out his phone and dialed a number he'd hoped never to use again. "Do you know what time it is, Marcus?" Dr. Regina Foster's voice was thick with sleep. "Remember when you said you owed me a favor after that grisly incident? I'm calling it in. And Reg, this is bigger than the bear." An hour later, a battered Jeep pulled up outside his cabin. Regina stepped out, her dark skin gleaming in the morning light, silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. She'd been the head veterinarian at Yellowstone before retiring to pursue more experimental research in xenobiology, research most of her colleagues had dismissed as fantasy. "This better be good, Davidson," she called out. Then she stepped inside and saw Zenith. The medical bag slipped from her fingers. "Mother of..." "She crashed last night," Marcus explained quickly. "Some kind of crystalline ship. She's telepathic or empathic at least, but Earth's gravity is crushing her and I don't know how to help." Regina moved forward slowly, her trained eye taking in Zenith's condition. "Fascinating. The bioluminescence suggests a silicon-based biology rather than carbon. The patterns, they're not random, it's communication." She knelt beside the couch, pulling instruments from her bag. "We need to create a low-gravity environment or at least simulate one. And these readings..." Her cellular structure is literally being compressed by Earth's gravitational field. "Can you help her?" Regina's face set in determined lines. "We're going to try, but we'll need more help. I know someone, Dr. James Chen, quantum physicist. He's been theorizing about gravity manipulation technology for years, been called crazy for it, but..." She gestured at Zenith. "Somehow I don't think he'll seem so crazy now." Over the next few days, Marcus's remote cabin became a hub of clandestine scientific activity. James arrived with prototype gravity manipulation devices. "Just theoretical models," he said with a gleam in his eye. "Until now." Regina worked to understand Zenith's unique biology, while Marcus used his ranger authority to keep curious hikers away from the area. When Zenith finally regained consciousness, her first reaction was confusion that shifted to terror as she registered multiple human presences. Her patterns flashed crimson with fear until Marcus stepped forward, projecting calm thoughts toward her telepathic sense. Safe, he thought firmly, friends helping. James's gravity devices had created a bubble of reduced gravity around the couch, allowing Zenith to sit up for the first time. Regina monitored her vital signs while James made adjustments to his equipment, muttering excitedly about revolutionary applications and rewriting physics textbooks. The Council, Zenith's thoughts reached them all now, stronger but still tinged with anxiety. "They say humans are dangerous, primitive, that you would dissect me for study." Regina snorted. "Honey, if we wanted to dissect you, we wouldn't be burning out James's prototype trying to keep you comfortable." Her directness startled a chime-like sound from Zenith laughter, Marcus realized with surprise. "Why help me?" Zenith's patterns shifted to a questioning purple. "Your species has no alliance with mine. The Council forbids contact." "Because it's right," Marcus said simply. "Because you needed help and we could give it." "Your emotions," Zenith's third eye focused on each of them in turn. "They're so strong, so pure. The Council says humans are ruled by aggression, by hunger for power. But I feel your curiosity, Regina, your excitement, James, your protectiveness, Marcus." Her patterns swirled with thoughtful blue-green hues. "They were wrong about so much." James looked up from his devices. "Speaking of wrong, these energy readings from your crash site, they're not consistent with an accident. Something hit your ship, didn't it?" Zenith's patterns dulled to a fearful gray. "Raiders. They attack ships near Council space, take what they want, leave the rest for scrap. I was returning from a diplomatic mission when they found me. My escape pod was damaged in the fight. I didn't mean to come here. Earth is forbidden. Lucky for you it is, Regina said, checking Zenith's vital signs again. Otherwise, those raiders might have followed. The words had barely left her mouth when a distant boom shook the cabin. Marcus rushed to the window. High above, a dark shape blotted out the stars, and smaller shapes were descending through the atmosphere. Or maybe, he said grimly, they did anyway. Zenith's patterns flashed with terror. They tracked my pod's radiation trail. They'll kill anyone who stands in their way. You have to run. Marcus shared a look with Regina and James. In their eyes, he saw the same determination he felt. That's not how we do things here on primitive Earth, he said, reaching for his Ranger radio. Regina, call every connection you've got. James, how many of those gravity devices did you bring? 3 prototypes, but... Good, because we're about to show these raiders why Earth is forbidden territory. He turned to Zenith, whose patterns swirled with confusion and growing hope. Your council thinks we're dangerous. They don't know the half of it, especially when we're protecting our own. As if to punctuate his words, more shapes appeared in the sky. The raiders were coming. But this time, Zenith wasn't alone. This time, she had humanity on her side. The raiders' ships descended like metallic vultures, their hulls gleaming dull red in the sunset. Marcus had made dozens of calls, pulling every favor he'd earned in 15 years of Ranger service. Now, hidden in the woods around his cabin, a makeshift coalition waited. Park rangers with their deep knowledge of the terrain, local search and rescue teams with their climbing gear and thermal imaging equipment, and even a handful of military veterans who'd responded to Regina's desperate calls. Inside the cabin, James worked frantically to modify his gravity devices while Regina monitored Zenith's vital signs. The aliens' patterns pulsed with a mix of fear and guilt. They're called the Void Jackals, Zenith's thoughts reached them all. They prey on diplomatic vessels knowing we Luminari can't fight back, our biology. We feel their hatred, their bloodlust. It paralyzes us. Good thing we're not Luminari then, Regina said grimly, checking the modified tranquilizer gun at her hip, usually used for large predators. Now loaded with darts James had engineered to work with alien physiologies. The first raider ship landed in the clearing where Zenith's pod had crashed. The beings that emerged looked like nightmares made flesh-towering figures in biomechanical armor, their helmets featuring elongated jaws filled with sensor arrays that gave them a truly predatory appearance. Life signs detected, one growled in a language only Zenith could understand, but she relayed their words to the humans. The Luminari survived. Take her alive, her kind fetch high prices from certain collectors. Marcus felt his jaw clench. He'd seen enough animal trafficking in his career to recognize the same evil at work here, just on a cosmic scale. He raised his hand, ready to give the signal to the hidden defenders when the raiders did something unexpected. They deployed floating orbs that began scanning the forest. Primitive local life forms, another raider reported. Strange, they're organized, armed. This is supposed to be a quarantine world. Kill them all, the leader ordered. No witnesses. The orbs suddenly erupted with energy fields, and trees began to wither and die at their touch. Marcus felt his blood run cold. This wasn't just an attack. It was an extinction event in the making. The raiders would sterilize the entire forest to cover their tracks. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed that primitive meant defenseless. James's modified gravity devices activated simultaneously, creating localized fields that sent the orbs crashing to the ground. Before the raiders could react, Regina's tranquilizer darts found gaps in their armor, delivering payloads specifically designed to disrupt their cybernetic systems. The forest itself seemed to come alive with defenders. Veterans disabled the raiders' ships with expertly placed charges. Search and rescue teams used their climbing gear to drop from trees, neutralizing raiders with tactics no alien could have anticipated. Rangers emerged from hidden positions, their knowledge of the terrain letting them outmaneuver the increasingly confused invaders. Inside the cabin, Zenith watched in awe as her patterns shifted to colors she'd never displayed before. I don't understand. Humans are supposed to be violent, destructive. We can be, Marcus admitted, watching his friends and colleagues systematically dismantle what was supposed to be a superior alien force, but usually only when protecting something worth protecting. The raiders' leader, realizing his force was being overwhelmed by primitives, triggered a device on his armor. Enough! Surrender the Luminari or I trigger my antimatter core. This entire region will be vaporized. Marcus felt Zenith's terror spike through their mental link, but alongside it came something else, a plan. Your empathic abilities, he said quickly. You can sense their emotions. Can you project them too? Project, yes, but understanding dawned in all three of Zenith's eyes. Oh, that's clever. Before the raider could act, Zenith gathered every scrap of hatred, bloodlust, and cruelty she'd ever sensed from their kind and reflected it back at them. The raiders staggered, overwhelmed by the psychic backlash of their own negative emotions. In their confusion, Regina's team moved in with the last of the tranquilizer darts, and the threat was over. As the sun rose over the battlefield, Earth's defenders began securing their prisoners. James and Regina worked to document everything, knowing this would change their world forever. Marcus found Zenith outside, her patterns glowing with colors he'd never seen before. I was wrong, she said, both through their mental link and in carefully practiced English. The Council was wrong. They call humans violent because you can fight, primitive because you use simple tools. But I understand now. You fight to protect. You use what you have with incredible creativity. And most importantly, her patterns shifted to a warm, pulsing gold. You help those in need, even at great risk to yourselves. Marcus smiled. Well, don't give us too much credit. We're probably going to study those raiders' ships pretty thoroughly. Might even figure out faster-than-light travel a few centuries ahead of schedule. Zenith's laugh chimed through the morning air. The Council will be horrified. Humans with advanced technology, their worst nightmare. Then maybe, Marcus said, watching Regina organize teams to secure and transport their alien prisoners. It's time for the Council to wake up and realize they've been having the wrong nightmare all along. The Galactic Council's emergency session chamber was a vast amphitheater of crystalline spires and floating platforms, each bearing representatives of different spacefaring species. At its center stood Marcus Davidson, feeling distinctly underdressed in his Ranger uniform, alongside Zenith, whose patterns swirled with a mix of determination and anxiety. This is unprecedented, thundered Counselor Vex, a being of living plasma contained within an environmental suit. Not only did Illuminari violate the Earth quarantine, but she exposed primitives to advanced technology and engaged their help in combat. With respect, Counselor, Zenith's thoughts rang clear through the chamber. If I hadn't exposed them, the Void Jackals would have killed me and then sterilized a significant portion of Earth's surface to hide their crimes. High above, a serpentine figure coiled around its platform. And where is the evidence of these alleged raiders? Convenient that they disappeared before we arrived. Regina Foster stepped forward, her scientific composure unwavering before the alien assembly. The evidence is currently in a secure facility on Earth, being studied by our best scientists, including their ships, weapons, and 17 living raiders who are quite eager to testify about their organization's activities in exchange for leniency. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Marcus hid a smile, remembering how quickly the raiders had turned on each other when faced with Earth's unusual brand of interrogation, mostly consisting of Regina's relentless questioning and James's enthusiastic requests to study their cybernetic implants. The humans speak truth, came a new voice. A towering figure stepped into the light first speaker Nixus of the Arbiters, the Council's peacekeeping force. We have confirmed their claims. The Void Jackals have been operating on the edges of Council space for decades. We simply could not catch them. Until now. Because we were looking in the wrong place, Zenith added. They knew the Council would never check a quarantined world. They knew I would be blamed for violating the quarantine while they escaped. What they didn't know was that humans would help me, or that they would be so formidable. Formidable, scoffed another counselor. They have barely achieved spaceflight. Their technology is centuries behind. And yet, Marcus interrupted, speaking for the first time, We captured raiders that your advanced civilizations couldn't catch. We did it with simple tools and cooperation. Imagine what we could do as allies rather than a quarantined species." The chamber erupted in arguments until first speaker Nyxis raised a hand for silence. "Perhaps it is time we questioned our assumptions. Zenith, share with the Council what you learned during your time on Earth." Zenith's patterns shifted to a teaching mode that Marcus had come to recognize. The Council classified humans as dangerous because they can be aggressive and violent. This is true, but it misses a crucial point. Humans channel these traits into protection, not just destruction. Their history of warfare has given them unique tactical insights. Their limited technology has forced them to be incredibly creative. She gestured to her human friends. "Dr. Foster adapted animal medicine to save my life. Dr. Chen created gravity manipulation technology just to help me survive on their world. Ranger Davidson coordinated a defense that captured the most notorious raiders in Council space. But most importantly, they did all this for a stranger, an alien, simply because it was right." "And now you want us to lift the quarantine?" Counselor Vex demanded. "Give primitives access to advanced technology." "No," Marcus said firmly. "We're not asking for technology. Earth needs to develop at its own pace. We're asking for recognition, for the right to defend ourselves and others who need help. The raiders proved that quarantine won't keep Earth safe forever. Wouldn't you rather have us as allies when the next threat comes?" First speaker Nyxis turned to study the assembled council. "The humans speak wisdom. They have proven themselves not through technology, but through their actions. They protected one of our own when we would not. They captured criminals we could not. Perhaps it is not they who need to evolve, but our understanding of them." As debate raged through the chamber, Marcus felt Zenith's presence touch his mind. "They're afraid," she shared privately. "Not of your violence now, but of how quickly you might advance once given the chance." Marcus smiled. "They should be, but not because we want to conquer anyone. There are more void jackals out there, more beings who need help. Earth has always been a sanctuary for those in need. No reason that should change just because those refugees might come from other planets." Zenith's patterns rippled with amusement and affection. The Council wanted to protect the galaxy from humanity. They never considered that humanity might end up protecting the galaxy instead. Above them, the Council continued their debate, not realizing that the very scene before them, humans and aliens standing together as friends and equals, had already shattered their oldest prejudices. The quarantine had failed, not through war or conquest, but through simple human compassion, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year after the Council's historic decision, Marcus stood at the edge of his property, now transformed into something he'd never imagined. His remote ranger cabin had become the heart of an extraordinary facility, the Earth Sanctuary for interstellar refugees. The building itself remained humble, but the surrounding clearing now housed several crystalline structures designed to accommodate beings from various gravity environments and atmospheric needs. "Still can't believe this is real sometimes," Regina said, joining him at the observation point. She'd officially retired from veterinary medicine to become the sanctuary's chief medical officer, though she insisted on keeping her old title of Doc rather than any fancy alien designation. "Incoming transmission from the Arbiters," James called from his lab, where he continued to revolutionize Earth's understanding of physics through careful study of alien technology, all while respecting the Council's restrictions on technological advancement. Zenith emerged from her meditation chamber, her patterns glowing with the confidence of someone who had finally found her true calling. As Earth's first alien ambassador, she had become the bridge between worlds, helping both humans and extraterrestrials understand each other. The holographic transmission materialized in the clearing, showing first speaker Nyxis. "Ambassador Zenith, Sanctuary Team, we have another situation. A ship of crystalline harmonics is under attack in the Carina sector. They're scholars, peaceful researchers. The nearest Arbiter vessel is 3 days away." "But Earth is only 12 hours at their current trajectory," Zenith finished, her patterns shifting to action mode. "How many refugees?" 27, including young ones. Their ship is damaged but holding. They're specifically asking for Earth Sanctuary." Marcus felt a surge of pride. In just 1 year, Earth had gained a reputation throughout the galaxy, not for its technology or military might, but for its unwavering willingness to help those in need. "Send us their coordinates," Regina said, already moving toward the medical bay. "I'll prepare for crystalline biology, James." "On it," he replied, adjusting his gravity systems. "Marcus, we'll need that clearing you surveyed last week. The crystals will want natural light." The first speaker watched their efficient preparation with approval. "The Council still debates the wisdom of making Earth a sanctuary world. Many fear it will advance your species too quickly." "They're not wrong," Marcus admitted. "We've learned more about the universe in the past year than in all of human history, but knowledge isn't the same as technology. We're learning something more valuable, how to be part of a larger community." "Besides," Zenith added, her patterns flickering with amusement, "humans are going to advance regardless. Better they do it while helping others than out of fear or isolation." As the transmission ended, Marcus watched his team prepare for their new guests. Each refugee crisis had taught them something new, forced them to innovate within their technological limitations. Earth scientists had developed remarkable solutions using primitive technology, earning respect from even the most advanced species. "They're entering the solar system," James announced. "Their distress beacon is active." Zenith's patterns shifted to a deep blue of determination. "Just like I was a year ago, scared, hurt, believing humans were too dangerous to trust." She turned to Marcus. "Should we tell them they're about to be rescued by primitives?" "Nah," Marcus smiled, checking his rescue gear. "Let's show them instead." As the team mobilized for another rescue, Marcus reflected on how much had changed. Earth was no longer just his home. It had become a beacon of hope for the galaxy's most vulnerable. The Council had feared humanity's potential for violence, never understanding that the same strength and determination could be used to protect, to heal, to welcome. Regina joined him in the transport vehicle, her medical kit ready. "You know, for a quarantined primitive species, we've done pretty well for ourselves. We just needed the right opportunity to show who we really are," Marcus replied as they headed out. Above them, a crystalline ship limped through Earth's atmosphere, carrying beings who had chosen to trust in humanity's protection. Just as Zenith had, just as dozens of others had since. Earth was still technically under quarantine, still primitive by Council standards. But it had become something far more important than an advanced civilization. It had become a sanctuary, a place where any being in the galaxy could find protection, compassion, and acceptance. As they drove toward the landing site, Zenith's thoughts touched their minds one last time. The Council feared humans would conquer the stars. Instead, you've done something far more powerful. You've taught the stars that strength isn't just about weapons or technology. It's about having the courage to help others, no matter how different they might be. The crystalline ship appeared on the horizon, its damaged hull refracting the dawn light into rainbow patterns across the sky. Another day at Earth's sanctuary was beginning, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy, once again, exactly why they had been wrong to fear them.